All right. Good morning, January 7th, Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. As we continue to look at Course in Miracles, doing one workbook lesson per day and then reading a section of the text in conjunction with that workbook lesson. So today, the workbook lesson, hey, uh, the Jonathan Wright joint. Hi, Jonathan. Good to see you, buddy. And thanks for hitting that like button, you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Good to see you. So, lesson 7 in the workbook today, Course in Miracles. Now we really start getting into it. Lesson 7 says, I see only the past. And it continues. This idea is particularly difficult to believe at first, yet it is the rationale for all of the preceding ones. It is the reason why nothing that you see means anything. It is the reason why you have given everything you see all the meaning that it has for you. It is the reason why you do not understand anything you see. It is the reason why your thoughts do not mean anything. It is the reason why you are never upset for the reason that you think. It is the reason why you are upset because you see something that is not there. So in the 7th lesson, to open up the 7th lesson, the Course is telling us the reason we've gone through the first 6 lessons is to set up the idea that I see only the past. And it introduces this notion that this is a discussion about the time concept. Thanks, guys, for hitting that like button. We're approaching 300 likes. I really appreciate it. I bet you Jonathan's busy. Sure looks like it. Thanks, Jonathan. Robert is here. Tristan is here. Some other people are here. Thanks for stopping by every morning at 11 a.m. We're going over the Course in Miracles. We're talking about lesson 7 today, and we'll also talk about the text in a few minutes. It says here, old ideas about time are very difficult to change because everything you believe is rooted in time and depends on your not learning these new ideas about it. So everything I believe, everything I see, everything I experience, Course is telling me, is rooted in my conception of time. Now, if I take the time to think about time, it will occur to me that, of course, that is a very deeply rooted idea that we are in time and space. And what it goes on to say in the Course is that our ideas about time and space are a reflection of the idea that we are separate from God. And so time and space, you could say, is the simulation of the idea, or it is the dream of the idea of separation from God. Excuse me. So time, might be, if there's a continuum, you might say time is on one end, eternity is on the other end, but there is a continuum there. And there's a lot to think about there. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to try to tell you what I think because it's just a matter of contemplation, really, right? I don't know anything. I'm not trying to tell you anything. We're just coming together here to spend a few minutes together, share a vibration together, share a few moments together to, just see where the discussion heads. Hi, Becky. Hi, Yadav. How are you? Good to see you. So very quickly, it then in this lesson, lesson 7, asks us to just look around us. Again, look at a cup, for example. It says, do you see a cup, or are you merely reviewing your past experiences of picking up a cup, being thirsty, drinking from a cup, feeling the rim of a cup against your lips? Are not your aesthetic reactions to the cup based on past experiences? How else would you know whether or not this kind of cup will break if you drop it? What do you know about the cup except what you learned in the past? So to continue the exercises, remember, we're just trying to unwind our old thinking, trying to get at the root of our old thinking, and later in the course, it will be replaced with new thinking. It says, look about you. This is equally true of whatever you look at. Acknowledge this by applying the idea for today indiscriminately to whatever catches your eye. For example, I see only the past in this pen. I see only the past in this string. I see only the past in this microphone. I see only the past in these glasses. Do not linger over any one thing in particular, but remember to omit nothing specifically. Glance briefly at each subject and then move on to the next. 3 or 4 practice periods, each to last a minute or so, will be enough. So 3 or 4 times during the day, I'm going to stop wherever I am. If I'm in a grocery store, if I'm at a gas station, if I'm at the library, whatever I'm doing, I'm just going to stop and look around me and remember the idea for the day and say, I see only the past in that carpet. I see only the past in this phone. And as we've already acknowledged, and as we're already being taught, it doesn't matter what my reaction to this process is. It doesn't matter if I resist the process. It doesn't matter if I think, what am I doing this for? This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. The commitment is to do the process nonetheless. I can report from personal experience that over time and over years of practicing with this material, that it does begin to have an effect on consciousness, begin to change. It does begin to change my perception of the world and my experience of the world. If I begin to think about my perception of the world, if I begin to think that, if I begin to understand, as it says later in the course, I'm the dreamer of the dream. If I begin to understand this is a dream, a very realistic dream, of course, a dream that causes pain, it seems, a dream that causes excitement, emotions. It's a very realistic dream. But while I'm in the dream, right, I think the dream is real. And it sure seems real when I break my arm, or when I bump my head, or when I get in a car accident. It sure seems real. So there's a paradox there. There's sort of an idea that has to be meditated on. And Rasha, I'm going to skip co-hosting with anybody for now. I appreciate it. If anyone really wants to become a part of this live in the mornings, hit me up, follow me, follow my account, and send me a direct message, and we'll talk. And I'm glad to have people come on and talk about this, talk about the Course in Miracles, talk about their experience with the Course in Miracles. We will get to that, and that will become a part of this enterprise and this experience. So if we go to the text now, this is section 7 from chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the meaning of miracles. And chapter 7 is called, section 7 is called The Distortions of Miracle Impulses. And it says, the opening paragraph, again, I was just going over this before the live, and every sentence, if I just stop and think about it for a short period of time, it's just like, wow, the implications of what are being said are pretty deep, is what I like to say. I just love thinking about these types of ideas, and I love experiencing the energy that they bring, right? So it says, your distorted perceptions, my distorted perceptions. So I have to admit I have a problem, right? First step, admit there's a problem. Acknowledge the problem. My distorted perceptions, I have distorted perceptions. Not, if I really think about it, not a really difficult concept to embrace. My distorted perceptions produce a dense cover over miracle impulses, making it hard for them to reach my own awareness. So my distorted perceptions are having an effect. They are covering up miracle impulses. The confusion of miracle impulses with physical impulses is a major perceptual distortion. Physical impulses are misdirected miracle impulses. All real pleasure comes from doing God's will. So even as I read that, I think, wow, physical impulses. Think about just wanting to eat or enjoy a meal. I want to go to that particular restaurant, have a particular meal because, man, I love those chicken wings or that pasta or whatever it is. And then consider the idea that that is a distorted miracle impulse. That is a thought of God. That is a thought of the satisfaction of God, being satisfied in my own identity with God. It's being distorted and turned into a physical impulse, which is fine. That's the situation I'm in. That's the situation we're in. It's just what happens to my perception and my experiences when I start to consider that idea, that my impulse to do something physically and to believe that physical connection, that physical experience is going to satisfy me, right? So, of course, if we've studied any sort of any spiritual instructions, any sort of perennial philosophy, of course, that idea is contained in every spiritual tradition, in every spiritual teaching. We are told your physical desires, trying to satisfy myself through physical desires in the long run is not going to work, right? I'm going to satisfy a physical desire, and then that satiation is going to pass away, and I'm going to want to satisfy it with something else. So again, there's that paradox. There's that balance I have to establish between spiritual experience, spiritual ideas, and a physical experience, right? Amazing. It says all real pleasure comes from doing God's will. Okay? Have fun figuring out what God's will is. Right? What the Course in Miracles says is God's will is love. God's will is salvation. God's will is returning to the place that, returning to the source, returning to the place from which I emerged, to the place from which I became conscious. It says all real impulses come from doing God's will. This is because not doing it is a denial of self, capital S. Denial of self, capital S, results in illusions, while the correction of error brings release from it. Do not deceive yourself into believing that you can relate in peace to God or to your brothers with anything external. Do not deceive yourself into believing that you can relate in peace to God or to your brothers with anything external. Hi, Carmen. It looks like Carmen is taking a look in here. Carmen, Badan, Carmen Baden. If that's really her, you want to go check out her channel. She's got some great, fun ideas to explore over there. So if that is indeed the real Carmen, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. We're just finishing up here. We're looking at section 7 of the first chapter of A Course in Miracles. And there's something else I'd like to point out here. It says denial of self, capital S, results in illusions, while correction of the error brings release from it. And again, another big idea, a central idea in the Course in Miracles is that you and I are not sinners. We have done nothing that has, in reality, caused irreparable harm. We did not create ourselves. It says in the Course in Miracles, which I can buy into that, something greater than myself. I can certainly believe that, right? Something greater than myself created me. And that something greater than myself, that source, God, I, as the created, I cannot change that. I cannot change God's creation. I can fall asleep and I can convince myself through the ego self, through the little self, through some sort of psychological construction, I can convince myself that I am doing something, or that I have changed circumstances or conditions, or I have changed creation or reality in some way. But what the Course in Miracles repeatedly goes through and says, repeatedly reminds me is, hey, you didn't create yourself. So you certainly can't change yourself. You haven't changed yourself. You are still perfect, whole, and complete. God created you. God is the creator. And what my teacher, who I've worked with the Course in Miracles for many years, the metaphor she uses to illustrate that is the creator of the car, or the person that gets, the maker of the car, or the owner of the car, using that as a metaphor for the person that's in charge of the car. Okay, you get into the car. I suppose it's changing now with auto-driving cars, but let's set that aside. The metaphor is, when I get in the car doesn't decide where to go. The car doesn't decide how it's going to be used. Okay, if I'm the driver of the car, if I've made the car, if I own the car, I decide where the car goes. I decide when, where, and how the car is going to be used. So if I use that as a metaphor, God created me. I don't decide where I'm going. I don't decide what I'm going to do. That is arrogance. That is usurping the power of God, which I can't really do, but I can convince myself, or I can run an experiment, if you will, or I can participate in a game or a simulation or some sort of holographic projection where I pretend with other aspects of myself, with my friends, I pretend that in fact I have usurped the power of God. I've replaced God, and now the world is, the world functions because of me and my friends. And you can see where that's gotten us. So, it's not that the experiment has failed. It's not that the experiment is going wrong. No, we're just demonstrating to ourselves where that kind of thinking leads. So, I've been very blessed to receive this kind of teaching. I've been very blessed to be involved with this material, this text, with studying this text. And, some of the ideas that I start to encounter by studying this text, some of the ideas that I have encountered in my spiritual journey, I never would have thought I would have come upon those types of ideas, or I'd be thinking the way I think right now. So it's all pretty amazing. And I'm dropping down to the fourth paragraph here. We're going to wrap this up pretty quick. Section 7, Chapter 1 in A Course in Miracles, Distortion of Miracle Impulses. Fourth paragraph says, this is a course in mind training. All learning involves attention and study at some level. Again, I have to admit, I don't know it all. I have to admit, I'm here to learn. It says some of the later parts of the course rest too heavily on these earlier sections not to require their careful study. You will also need them for preparation. Without this, you may become much too fearful of what is to come to make constructive use of it. However, as you study these earlier sections, you will begin to see some of the implications that will be amplified later on. A solid foundation is necessary because of the confusion between fear and awe, to which I have already referred and which is often made. If you do not have a copy of the book of the Course in Miracles, you can find Course in Miracles online at ACIM.org, CourseInMiracles.org, Foundation for Inner Peace, that's their official website, ACIM.org. Just read section 7 today from chapter 1. Just go over it. It says, now it's making a distinction here between awe and fear as I begin to approach the vibration, the frequency of God in my consciousness. And it may not even be a conscious reaction, but it's also referring to the idea of a revelation. If you've ever had an experience of touching source, touching oneness, it's right, you say, oh, that was awesome. It was an awesome experience. Very difficult to put into words. And it says, study these ideas that are being laid out at the beginning of A Course in Miracles. Pay attention to them, because when that moment of revelation occurs, and it will, it's better to have that foundation and to understand what's being talked about, so that experience of awesomeness doesn't become an experience of fear, right? You often hear Christians or other people talk about the fear of God, or sort of this Old Testament idea about fearing God, a wrathful God, a punishing God. for my own self, what that turns out to mean is that the laws of consciousness, the law is what you can fear if you don't understand it. What goes around comes around. What I reap, what I have sown. So if I don't understand the law of consciousness, yeah, I can fear things coming to me. If I do understand it and I simply give love, then I will receive love. Giving and receiving are one according to the law of consciousness. So if I'm forgiving, I will be forgiven. That idea is definitely a part of the study of the Course. And just to sum it up, last few sentences of section 7. It says it would be unwise to start on these steps without careful preparation, or awe will be confused with fear, and the experience of God will be more traumatic than beatific. Healing is of God in the end. Remember, we're healing consciousness. Any healing that comes after the healing of consciousness, of physical healing, of financial healing, or relationship healing, proceeds from consciousness. It's an effect of the first cause, which is my consciousness. It says the means are being carefully explained to you. Revelation may occasionally reveal the end to you, but to reach it, the means are needed. And it says the means are contained in this text and in the practice of the exercises in the workbook. So I will leave it at that for today. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you, Jonathan, for all the likes. I appreciate it. 777 hearts, 777, with lesson 7 today on the 7th of January. Wow, there we go. Good talking to you guys. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. Like and follow this account. Hit me up in the DMs. Let me know if you'd like to talk about the Course in Miracles sometime. Jonathan says, ha ha. Yes, Jonathan. Good to see you, buddy. And yeah, hit me up in the DMs. Good seeing you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow. Talk to you soon. Peace and blessings.